The Phoenix Park murders took place on the 6th of May, 1882. The crimes shook the city of Dublin to its core. The streets were filled with whispers and speculations as people tried to make sense of the brutal killings of Lord Frederick Cavendish and Thomas Henry Burke. Cavendish was the newly appointed Chief Secretary for Ireland. He was the second son of the 7th Duke of Devonshire. Burke was the permanent Under-Secretary, the highest-ranking Irish civil servant. His family was descended from Sir Ulick Burke, the first Baronet of Glinsk in County Galway. On the evening of the murders, Lord Cavendish had just arrived in Ireland. He made his way to Dublin Castle, where he took the oath as Chief Secretary, and then decided to walk to his new residence in the Phoenix Park, a journey that would take 1 hour. Burke, who was heading home to his Phoenix Park residence by carriage, spotted Cavendish and decided to join him on foot to the Viceregal Lodge. As the two men strolled through the park, they were confronted by 7 strangers. The men quickly approached Burke and Cavendish. One of them stabbed Burke with a 12-inch surgical knife, followed quickly by another stabbing Cavendish. Police and medical staff from a nearby hospital were summoned to help, but the men were determined to have died from their wounds. On May 17th, just 11 days after the murders took place, a statement was sent by a Royal Mail from London to the offices of the Freeman's Journal in Dublin. It purported to contain the real story of the assassinations from one of the murderers himself. The statement claimed that it was in fact Cavendish who was the intended target, that the instructions were to spare Burke unless he intervened, and that Cavendish would have been spared if he had not fought off their attempts to abduct him. The statement went on to claim that Cavendish's last words were an expression of forgiveness for their actions. "I forgive you, prosperity to poor Ireland, peace to poor Ireland." This statement was never officially verified, but many at the time believed it to be genuine. The investigation was led by Superintendent John Mallon, who suspected former Fenian activists and played suspects off against each other to obtain confessions. It was concluded that the assassinations were carried out by members of a radical Republican group known as the Irish National Invincibles, who had broken away from the Irish Republican Brotherhood. The Invincibles had previously failed in multiple attempts to kill the outgoing Chief Secretary, William Edward Forster, before he resigned from his position. Burke was thought to be the Invincibles' intended target because he was a supporter of the Irish Coercion Acts, which gave the state increased powers to suppress popular discontent and disorder. Prosecutors believed the assailants were unaware of the identity of Burke's companion, but as a witness to the assassination, Lord Cavendish could not be left alive. The case was successfully prosecuted and 5 Invincibles members were convicted of the murders. Joe Brady, Michael Fagan, Thomas Caffrey, Dan Curley and Tim Kelly were hanged in Kilmainham Jail in Dublin in 1883. The executions were widely reported on in the newspapers, and special police arrangements were made in order to keep the peace. Although devastated by the assassination of her husband, Lady Lucy Cavendish sent a small gold crucifix to one of the convicted men on the eve of his execution as a token of her forgiveness.